Bases drop for a new round of SDH on a Monday. And I know I've come to one conclusion. I need more soccer sweatshirts because it's still freaking cold and I'm running through like the same 3 or 4. Happy Reaction Monday. John, hear you there. It's another round of SDH AM for the next 2 hours or so. We'll go through everything from the weekend. And guess what? This weekend, games count for real in Major League Soccer. They count earlier this week for those that are in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. We'll go through that as we go as a part of previewing the week. What we're going to try and do this week is catch up with as many friends as humanly possible to get you ready for the season coming up here, the 30th for Major League Soccer in 2025. And getting that stacked list, like I said, we put out the bat signal to all of our friends, and so we'll see how it is. Do have a couple of precincts reporting. Will Pelagic, the play-by-play voice for Charlotte FC, he's going to join us tomorrow morning at 9:15 to get the lowdown on everything up I-85. And so we'll catch up with Willie P. tomorrow. Also, we will be catching up with Matt Cairns at Huntsville City Football Club as they get ready for their season in MLS Next Pro. That is at 10:15 on Wednesday. And this is in addition to our normal guests that we have. So Bart's going to join us at 10 o'clock. We do have a lot of national team stuff to get through in addition to reffing down here. And there's some things that I wanted to discuss with Bart in hour number 2. We'll talk about Atlanta United in hour number 1. And we got highlights and things, and we'll get into that coming up in a bit. So once again, tomorrow, Will Pelagic, 9:15. Wednesday, Tyler Pilgrim from the Atlanta United organizational information exchange and journalistic program over at Scarves and Spikes. And so he'll be joining us in his normal spot at 9:15. Matt Cairns from Huntsville City joining us at 10:15 to talk about things there. Lucas Panzica, friend of the network from 104.5 The Zone up in Nashville, is going to bat leadoff for us on Thursday to let everybody know what's going on with Nashville before he has to actually go in and work for a living. Then we'll have the Power Hour in hour number 2 with our buddies Nino and Nico. Nino Torres will take us around the world in 30 minutes with what's on his mind. Nico Moreno will join us at 10:30 or the last half hour or the last whatever, and we won't have to worry about piano movers, I don't think, next Thursday. It's just weird still not having a piano to rest my arm on. But Nico Moreno joining us in the last half hour plus in hour number 2 on Thursday to break down everything from a Pacific perspective in Major League Soccer. We do have to talk about the Josh Atencio trade in Seattle as a part of that discussion. So put a bookmark in that, and that'll be Thursday at 10:30. And then Friday's going to be a free-for-all. We'll see how many folks want to come in and crash and talk about everything as we get ready for Major League Soccer. It'll be the weekend preview, all the matches in Major League Soccer, all the things. We got Champions League this week. We've got CONCACAF this week. We got all the things this week. But at the end of the week, once again, remember, Friday, we're previewing everything to get you ready for the weekend as we go. And like I said, we've reached out to another couple of our friends, and we will see what SDH AM will yield on a match preview week in Major League Soccer. Also, away from SDH AM, busy week on the high school side. How busy? Well, I'll tell you. On our Mixler platform, and there are a couple of different ways that you can go and access these games. First off, download the Mixler app, MIXLR. Then what you do there is go and you look and follow Soccer Down Here and SDH2. And that the reason for all of that, it will be coming up in opening kickoff in a little bit. So you go to the Mixler app, MIXLR, follow SDH, SDH2. Tuesday, we have 2 high school matches on SDH on our Mixler channel. Jason will be down at McIntosh for Dalton and McIntosh. Remember, this is winter break, I think, for a lot of students here in the state of Georgia. So what Dalton and McIntosh decided to do was sit there and go, you know what? It's winter break. Let's go ahead and play each other. So they're going to go ahead and play each other. 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon on the network over on our Mixler channel. Jason's going to have the call of McIntosh hosting Dalton. Then that night, Tuesday night, I will be up at Appalachia, possibly with the Cast of Thousands. And we will be up there for the boys varsity match with Seconder and Appalachia. So that'll be on the Mixler channel over on SDH on Tuesday. Wednesday, we'll be in Gainesville at City Park, Bobby Gruen Field in City Park, for North Gwinnett at Gainesville. We'll have those matches on the Mixler channel. Thursday, go to Moxie Midtown, 7 o'clock, like 7 to 8:30. It's our first third Thursday event. So that's what's going on. Go to Moxie Midtown, get there early. We'll talk Atlanta United. We'll talk stuff. Moxie Midtown, 7 to 8:30. Moxie, a great partner with us here at SDH. And then Friday, Johnson Gainesville at Dalton. We'll be up there at Harmon Field Bill Chappell Stadium for the two matchups with Johnson Gainesville and Dalton on Friday. So we'll have that. So here's your week once again. SDH AM, it's going to be there. Tuesday, McIntosh and Dalton, 3 o'clock. Time TBA, probably 7:30, 8 o'clock for the boys varsity match, Seconder and Appalachia. That's Tuesday. Wednesday, North Gwinnett and Gainesville over on our Mixler channel over at SDH. Go to Moxie Midtown, come and hang out with us on Thursday, 7 to 8:30. And then Friday, Johnson, Gainesville, and Dalton over on our Mixler channel. So our high school schedule is really picking up steam. And then obviously everybody will be seeing each other for the first time for real on Saturday with Atlanta United hosting CF Montreal. And that is a 7:30 kick. And then it all starts all over again next Monday, where after the show, I pack up my stuff and I go to Lincolnton. Week from today, Thompson and Lincoln County in Lincolnton. That'll be on the network on SDH. And that will be the fun part there. And then you can go to Emory for the first of our quarterly lecture series with Jason, the Rose Library, Emory University, a week from today. Also, don't forget to sign up for our Fanaticos membership over on Chant, $10 a year. You can sign up and you can get a lot of great discounts and you can help grow the Soccer for Good, and you can be a part of that as well. Go to Chant and become an SDH Fanatico. You saw that in the open. $10 a year. You can't go wrong with $10 a year and helping to give back as we do. So that was I think that's a bit of a rundown. That's not even getting into the promos. That really is not even getting into the promos about everything that you can do to help out SDH, and you can be a part of anything and everything going on in our universe. Like I said, this is the retro gear. We've got to figure out when we can put this up online, but you can go to soccerdownhere.net, go into the shopping section, and you can see all of the gear that we have readily available right now on our clothesline. You get mugs, Ruckus, Attack, those kinds of things, SDH logo, that kind of stuff. You can get that over at soccerdownhere.net. Go to Olive and York. You can get our jersey, and it helps out Soccer for Good. Thanks to our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring. Thanks to our friends, once again, at Kaiser Permanente, because we could not do any of this without them. Our friends at Kaiser Permanente across the front of the Navy jersey. You can choose personalization either in white or in a Carolina blue to go up against the Navy. So go to Olive and York and get your Kaiser Permanente Atlanta United jersey. That's going to help out, proceeds from that help out our Soccer for Good campaign here in 25 and beyond. You can also go to our friends at Grady Baby Co. You see me wearing that sweatshirt. I mean, it is an incredibly comfortable sweatshirt, by the way. Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. Soccer is just better in Atlanta. You've seen Jason wear it. You've seen me wear it. The boss has stolen mine, and you can go there. Soccer is just better in Atlanta, in the red, in the black, and proceeds from that help out middle school soccer programs tied to Atlanta Public Schools. So very, very cool stuff from our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. And if my upper plate would work on a Monday, I could also tell you about the scarves to benefit the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. And we can go and you can help them out. I got like 17 on the other side of this door. So if you buy like the jerseys and stuff, you get that from England. Jerseys, bucket hats, all that, you get that from England. Scarves, you get from me because they're on the other side of this door. So if you're ever interested in those kinds of things, you can do that as well. All right. I have filibustered to 9:15. That means one thing. I don't know if Abe has already gone out, run a 10K this morning, or if Chipper has just basically said, bruh, I ain't going out there. And it's just like you go out, you come back, and that's it. Because that's what it was for the Rowdy man. Go out, come back, I'm done. I'm heading into bed, turn on my heater. So let's find out. Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game. How are you, brother?
I'm doing good. It's definitely not because Chipper didn't want to go out. She loves this temperature, this weather. So we're probably gonna go. I have a little bit modified schedule today because of President's Day. So I'm gonna go for just a little 3 mile run, probably around noon or so.
You are a braver soul than anybody, man. Going running it and this stuff.
It'll heat. I think it'll heat up by noon. Well, if it's still this cold, I'm not going to go out. But
Attaboy. That's the talk that we need to hear. I don't know if you know this, but games count for real on Saturday. I don't know if you've heard that or not.
Oh, I assumed that we were just kind of NBA All-Starring this thing up the other day with 3 45-minute periods and divvying it up like that. But no, I mean, yeah, I can't wait. Saturday's the opener. It's at home, which is another cool aspect of this season. And it feels like everything's in place, right? I know sometimes you bring in new players and you're waiting 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 months, whatever the case may be for visas and all that. And they've done a great job to get all of that settled in and ingratiate both Miggy and Latte Lath. And so I'm fired up. We're geared up, ready to roll. And look, there's a slight revenge factor here for Montreal. I know not all the players are the same, but you did end their season last year. So yeah, there's some fun aspects to it, but just ready to get this season started. I think we all want to get going because we think it can be something special this year. So Saturday evening, 6:30 pregame, 7:30 kickoff, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And I don't know, man. Like I'm amped up. I really am amped up. Like I was talking with Jason Longshore yesterday. I'm like, dude, it's like game week. Like we're here. And I kind of did not most, but a good majority of the rundown work a couple of weeks ago for the opener, just kind of reformatting everything with what we know and what we can, right? The season-long schedule and the new additions that we want to make note of, stuff like that. But I've got to dive in this week into what's going on with Montreal. So excited for it.
No, and that's the fun part is that now, once again, in as much as we sit there and we go, well, it's 7 weeks. And that was the thing that I was joking about with everybody last week. It's like, how are you going to fill 7 weeks? Well, I think we didn't have any issues filling 7 weeks with all the transfer news, with all of who's in, who's out, who's being talked about, who's now back in, all these kinds of things. And I know that probably one of the other burning questions is what do we call the four horsemen up top? I mean, I've heard slam. I've used the four horsemen because I think the expectation is with Latte Lat, with Miranchuk, with Saba, with Miggy, with Click, with, name anybody else that's attached to it, that this team could be one of the top offensive teams in Major League Soccer in 2025. And it seems like we're gonna run like hell for 90 minutes, try and catch us, and we're gonna play defense at the same time too. So I am intrigued, as they say.
Yeah, look, I don't need some fancy, catchy nickname for whoever's going to be scoring goals. I'd like to just straightforward call them the best attack in the MLS. Like that's what we're hoping for when we put this thing together. And I know there's a little bit of hesitation to take it there because we oddly and maybe stupidly were saying some similar things last year at the start of the season. And obviously it's going to be told a different story. But if you could stay healthy, there's no reason to think that with what you already have with Saba, with what I think will be a much improved Alexei Miranchuk, along with Miggy and Latte Lath, there's no reason to think that teams are going to come in and scare you, and you won't be able to scare them. So I just want it, and this is the problem with sports, right? We always have these ideas of what should be happening on the field. Mm-hmm. I just want what actually happens on the field to match kind of how we think it could look. Because if it does, like I said, this could be a very special season for Atlanta United.
When you look at Atlanta United right now, and like I said, all things being equal, nobody's played a game yet. We've seen preseason. Ronnie Dyla has admitted that he is happy with the progression that he has seen. 5 in a row without a loss in the preseason after what happened in Chattanooga to start things off. But he still says there's work to do. And I think that any coach is going to sit there and not say, even if in his mind things might be on the path and you're on your bell curve, no coach is going to sit there and say, yeah, we're where we are. We're good. Dyla, after the match, he's like, no, we still got things we got to work on. So the progression is there from what we've anticipated and what Ronnie Dyla is anticipating. Still things to work on. When you have looked at the progression from Chattanooga through Dallas, what has stuck out in your mind with the progression of this club from match 1 to match week?
Well, the first thing, which unfortunately I think you can kind of throw out, and I think you can throw out all of it in general, just because the games are matter now and intensity is going to be ramped up and all that. But just comfort level, it looks like Click is a little bit more comfortable. We certainly saw Miggy do some things the other day that he maybe didn't do in his first exhibition outing, and then obviously getting Latte Lath out there. But there's just a comfort level, and Saba has been kind of asked to maybe in theory, play a little bit different position, not just in terms of side, but free flowing. And that's going to, you're going to have to read what Miggy's doing and kind of all come together with nonverbal communication, figure that out. But I would say just the comfort level. And then we talked about this, I think, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. The finishing is still on point. And that does kind of have me excited heading into the season. I mean, you looked at Saba's goal to open things up. Yeah, I mean, that's an MLS goal of the year type of strike, right? And obviously he gets an opportunity and bashes one home later. I think we saw Mateus Click the game before, had an opportunity, a small little window, a little half volley or whatever it was, and puts it home. So it's interesting to see that quality right now at this point in the season. That's something that maybe sometimes you have to round into form, but to see that does get you excited as well. And Dyla's right. Like, and I talked about this with you previously. I've talked about it with Jason, and I'm going to talk about it on the Five Stripes Countdown on the pregame show. Like, there's got to be a level of patience you have as we start this season off, because one, you have a very difficult schedule here at the front. I want to say all 5 of the teams you face off, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6, were in the playoffs last year. Montreal, Charlotte, Red Bulls, Inter Miami, FC Cincinnati, and NYCFC. That's a tough run of 6 games to start this thing out. And so, we're going to be patient. If the results aren't exactly what we want them to be or what we think they should be, at least I'm going to be patient. I can't force anyone, but let's also continually remind what we're doing is such an overhaul. And as much as we say we got, I don't know, what are the numbers? 7 of 11 starters back, 8 of 11 starters back if you count the injuries to Brooks Lennon, whatever. There's still major changes with an entire attack. There's still major changes with a manager who, sure, he's not going to ask you to do wildly different things, but there are some moments where you're being asked to do different things that maybe you're just not feeling immediately. So I'm going to be patient and kind of let the season build. And I think as anyone will see in college basketball or in Major League Baseball, in whatever sport you want it to be, starting out like 5-0, 6-0 doesn't mean you're winning the national championship. It's about playing your best in the postseason. And so we're going to give them an opportunity to build. I'm still excited. But I'm also not going to panic if in a tough 6-game stretch, we can eke out 2 wins and 2 draws and, a couple whatever it's going to be. This is such a long season that it's such a long process too. And it is relatively forgiving in terms of a playoff format. I think we learned that last year. I think, how many times did we bury Atlanta United? I think we had 7 games in a row that were must win, and we lost all of them or tied them. And then we still were in just looking at the numbers, still must win. And then we actually started to win the must win. It is a forgiving format, especially if you can hover early in the season. And I think this team's going to do more than just hover. I do expect success, but I'm also going to be patient if we don't immediately come out of that with 18 points out of 6 matches.
Oh, come on. 18
I
points
know.
out of 6. Come on, man.
I know.
All right, so the 6 that you are talking about out of the blocks, it is home to Montreal, then in March, at Charlotte, home to Red Bulls, home to Messi and friends on the 16th of March. That's going to be a full house. At TQL to take on Cincinnati, and home to NYC. And there's news out of NYC where Santi Rodriguez is being discussed to go to Botafogo. So that is another weapon that NYC may have to replace with financials coming in. So home to Montreal, at Charlotte, at home to Red Bulls, at home to Messi and friends, at Cincy, and at NYC. So that's your 6-pack to start things off.
And correct me if I'm wrong, John. Do I remember correctly? And I know Atlanta United eliminated Montreal in that wild card round, but all 6 of those I think were in the Eastern Conference playoffs last year.
I believe you are accurate, sir. Yeah.
And so look, changes are made, right? Like over the course of season, some teams go up, some teams go down, and have to deal with it. You mentioned NYCFC, like without Santi, they're not going to be the same team, and so it doesn't necessarily mean you can't handle business, but it's a tough stretch. You can't walk your way into this season. You got to. It's like hopping on a treadmill that's already zooming at an 8-mile-per-hour pace. Like you don't have time to kind of get up to speed. You're up to speed. You better just start getting those legs going. So, but I think that's a good test too. I also think it can form this team maybe a little bit quicker than an easier schedule might. Right? Like there's going to be moments where you have to come together either in a match or in a stretch of matches because you're not getting it done with whatever is happening. And if you're against lesser opponents, if you were against teams that are not competitive, you might luck your way out of that without really solving issues. So they're going to be tasked with solving issues very quickly, which again gets me excited because I think that they can do that. I think they're going to figure things out very quickly and will start to hit a stride. I am going to be patient, but I also like am just sitting here like, man, they're going to get on a roll, and they might get on a roll fast. And I don't know if they can win the Supporter Shield, stuff like that. That remains to be seen. But look, when you start the season, what is the immediate goal? I think is to be one of the top 4 seeds in the Eastern Conference. I think that is certainly within reach with what we have put together and potentially more.
All right. So before you get out of here, prediction time. This is where we put stuff. This is where you write stuff either in pencil or pen, and we put it in the bottle, and we throw it in the safe. Give me, let's see. I was going to say, I'm not going to admit like nothing with half the standings or anything in the Eastern Conference. You'd already mentioned top 4 for Atlanta United.
Mm-hmm.
Who I'm trying to give me a prediction. Doesn't matter if it's individual or team based. Give me one prediction for the 2025 season. Like I said, can be individual, can be team, can be East, can be West, but something inside of Major League Soccer. Give me an Abe prediction that we're going to put in the time capsule and have for later, because next time you're on, season's already started and it won't count because it's like doing a NASCAR pool or something. Races have already started and you're a race down. Give me a prediction in Major League Soccer. Can be individual, can be team, can be good, can be bad, can be a surprise. Give me something that we put in the time capsule that we can come back and play November.
I'm going to go like real high and mighty with this prediction. It is lofty, but I think based on what we believe Atlanta United can do, and based on some comments I've made over the course of the last couple of weeks with you, my prediction is that Alexei Moranchuk will lead the MLS in assists.
Okay.
I think that would be a perfect scenario to where Atlanta United has the attack in full force. If he's got 3 different guys up top of him in Saba, Latte, Lath, and Miggy, and he gets to just pick and choose which one he wants to feed at a certain time. Now, you're also dealing with an attack that has been a little bit more traditionally in recent years coming from crosses. And so you're going to have to obviously work through the center a lot more. And I think we do see that. But I mentioned, I think it was kind of a blur for him coming into the team last year. And you could see there were just misconnections at times, having an offseason, having added talent up top. If this offense runs the way I think it could, and look, I understand this is an incredibly lofty task. I could have said something much simpler and probably been accurate. But I'll stick with this. Alexei Miranchuk has the tools and will lead the MLS in assists this year.
Okay.
How about that one?
That'll stick. And so, well, I was going to go along those lines. Pedro Amador double-digit assists this year. We'll give Hawkeye double-digit assists off the left. That's what I would.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'll take that too. And I think one of the things is that he had this odd connection with Saba for whatever reason last year. But you were always just like, well, they're not always on the same side. Now they're going to be on the same side, depending on how free-flowing they get with Miggy and Saba.
Mm-hmm.
That might be able to. But, yeah, you play a whole season out, and, I mean, we joked about this. He ain't going to continue the form he had in the playoffs, I don't imagine. But anything close to that, I like double digits. That might take away from my Miranchuk stat total line, but that's all right. I'll take them how they come.
No worries. All right, hit the promo for me one more time before you figure out if Chipper's going to go out for a walk.
Well, she's staring daggers at me right now, so she's about ready for walk number 2. Yeah, very excited. The pregame show, the Five Stripes Countdown, starting at 6:30 on Saturday night. We're going to be live from Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Then we're going to hand things off to Mike and Jason for the call at 7 o'clock. And then, of course, as always, we will be back with you. In fact, you're going to be back with me on Saturday after the game for the post-game show, the full-time report. So it's going to be a full shift on Saturday, just like the players on the field. Hopefully we come out victorious as well.
No doubt about it. So there's your breaking news, by the way. So Abe Barry's.
Is that a secret?
No, it's not now. I mean, it's going to be fun, and I can't wait. And I know probably I give you through maybe home match number 3 before you want to sit there and launch across the room and sit there and strangle me and go, dude, Nelson, what are you talking about? Where are you? What planet are you from?
We're only having those sorts of discussions if we're trying to talk too positively about a loss. So we talk about a win. I think we're in clear waters.
Okay. All right. So that once again, I'm joining Abe. There are a couple of dates where I have some other commitments and things, but Abe and I think, are going to be with the post-game show, and I'm looking forward to it, partner. You know, with all the time that we spend with each other here on Mondays, we get to kind of go after Reaction Mondays, but now we're going to get some a little quicker reaction with me on the post-game show with you. Cannot wait, my friend. Chipper staring daggers at you. I know that probably around noon you're going to get that 3 in and just sit there and make me go, man, I'm an old man. Can't wait to see you. It's going to be great. Match week is officially underway, so go get your breakfast. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Looking forward to it. We'll see you at the Benz on Saturday.
You got it, my friend. There goes Abe. So that's your news. That's the news that I am going to be with Abe for the postgame show. So there you go. So like I said, there are a couple of other commitments that I have that were made either late 2024. One of the dates, I will be out for basketball championships for GPB. So most of the time, there are like a couple of games here at the beginning of the schedule where I won't be there for the postgame show. But most of the time this season for the matches at MBS, Abe and I are going to be paired for the postgame show. So there you go. That's one of your stories for the week that gave Nelson a microphone. God help us all. So no, it's going to be fun. Thanks to Abe as always for dropping by to lead things off here on Reaction Mondays. Let me know what is on your mind. Shoot. As we go, and like I said, you guys can think about it for a while because we'll be talking about it most of the week, and I might just ask you to save them for tomorrow. But give me one prediction. Like I said, it doesn't have to be Atlanta United. Can be Atlanta United if you want. Major League Soccer, Atlanta United. I always forget to turn on my glance board. Give me one prediction. One prediction. Major League Soccer could be a team, could be a player. Give me something. We can put it in the vault. We can talk about it today. If you don't have it today, if you're going to think about it today, we got it tomorrow. Like I said, we got all week to get into this. But give me one prediction. Since I talked about it with Abe, it's only fair that I introduce it to the floor. Give me one prediction for your season in Major League Soccer for 2020, 2025. Can't wait, and it's going to be fun to see what is going on at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And with that schedule, we talked about those first 6 matches with the ones that are on the table, especially that one with Messi and friends out of the blocks. Really looking forward to that one on the 16th. So that is your assignment. That's your homework assignment. Give me one prediction, like I said, and you can think about it for a while. If you got one off the top of your head, go. Put it in the Twitch pitch, and we'll talk about it. But once again, remember, one prediction only. We can put it in the Twitch pitch, and I'm sure that either Ricky or Alex will write all of them down, and they will have them in a hermetically sealed envelope that we can look at in November and see who was right. All right, so that's Abe, and it's always great to catch up with him. Once again, top of the hour, it's going to be Bart Keeler, and we're going to discuss a lot of U.S. national team stuff. Episode 110 for the Soccer for US POD discusses the top 50 names. We have that. We really haven't had the chance to get into the She Believes Cup roster yet on the women's side. The U17s have qualified for the U17 World Cup. We'll get into that. Cooper Sanchez, a part of that roster. I was watching Cuba and Nicaragua yesterday. It was on 2-N. It was one of the other matches to decide who is going to make it. The way that the format is in the U17s is if you win your group, there's 8 groups in CONCACAF. If you win your group, you're in. So the U.S. won their group, they're in. So good work by the United States getting through, and we'll discuss the growing pains of the sport, especially with the 22 goals that happened in the one match earlier in the tournament against the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we'll get into all of that with Bart and Reffing Down here starting top of the hour. All right, we got highlights from what went down this past weekend, where 3 halves make a whole. 3 45s. 45, 45, and 45. Atlanta United would go on to win by the score of 3-2 over FC Dallas. Lucho Acosta was there. So Lucho Acosta trying to get in some late reps with FCD to be paired with Peter Musa, I imagine, over time. And that's the connection that you're going to be seeing with FC Dallas. But let's go over the highlights. And as Abe alluded to, there was one particular individual that was very, very busy early on, and his name is Saba Lobjanidze in the first 45 minutes.
Edwards, he'll cut inside. Moranchuk slips it through to Miggy. Miggy with the switch. Hernandez brings it down at midfield. Here comes Atlanta down the left. Saba driving on Shaq Moore. Saba cuts it on the right foot. Can't get much on the shot. Abubakar blocks it. Hernandez inside the 18, turning to his right. Back to Saba. Saba curler. Golazo! Goal! 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 Saba Lobjanidze. I can't do Mike's line, but I'm gonna right now. Listen, all y'all, it's a sabotage.
I give it a 7 out of 10, but I give the goal a 10 out of 10. My heavens.
Great goal from Lobjanidze. Hernandez kept it alive. He gets the assist in Atlanta.
There you go. First one of the year for Saba. So Saba makes it 1-0 in the 13th minute. And if you go back to Atlanta United, ATLUTD.com/live. The game is still up there, and you could click and you go to your YouTube link and you can watch it there as well. Yeah, it was very, very pretty. Sized up the right, curled it into the upper corner to the far post, made it 1-0. That was not the end of the day for Saba and his scoring. He'd make it 2-0.
Left-footed shot, blocked off of Abubakar. Saba off the half volley. Goal! 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 Saba Lobjanidze with a second. And yes, it is still a sabotage here in Marietta.
That's a great finish from Saba. It's really good persistence. The second goal we've seen of that today, Jason, where the first ball doesn't come off. The first attack doesn't come off, but you stay tenacious, you stay aggressive, and you clean things up. The ball bounces around. I thought Lalas Abubakar defended Saba really well coming down the left-hand side. I thought Saba had a step on him. Abubakar corrects and gets back in front of him really well. Ball eventually falls to Moranchuk, gets blocked, falls again to Saba, who doesn't give up on it and stays aggressive, and then just
2-0 at that point. Dallas would make it 2-1. And then as Dallas was chasing in the third 45-minute period, you have this moment from Edwin Mosqueda. Fast Eddie made it 3-1.
Off the backside of Mosquera. Brennan nearly had a chance to break, but couldn't gather it in. Newman, heavy touch. Fortune with the interception. He'll loop it down the left side for Mosquera. Dallas and everybody forward. Here comes Atlanta. Mosquera got options on the backside, might not need them. Mosquera, goal! Goal! Goal, Edwin Mosquera with the finish. Jay Fortune with the assist. And it's Atlanta 3-1.
The latest goal of Edwin Mosquera's life in the 130th minute.
Never seen a goal in the 130th minute, but Edwin Mosquera does it. Dallas and everybody forward. Mosquera had the options, and he ends up not needing them, but it creates the space for him to beat Collodi to the far side netting. Great composed finish by Edwin Mosquera.
They would eventually go on to win it 3-2. Thanks to ATLUTD.com, Atlanta United, for the highlights there. So Saba with 2, Mosqueda with 1, 3-2 win for Atlanta United in the last preseason match for 2025. As we'd mentioned with Abe, Ronnie Dylo was like, okay, and this is me paraphrasing, obviously. Yeah, that's cool. We've won 5 in a row. They're still learning. We still have some things that we got to improve on. And I don't think literally any coach is going to sit there and say, yeah, we're at 100%. We're ready to go. Yeah, we're good before the season starts. I don't think that's quite the case. But you saw, once again, creativity from Sabalob Janidze. You saw Latelat get minutes. Miggy was getting minutes and getting more comfortable. AM 5'9" getting more comfortable. And I think that the key with Miranchuk is that he had an offseason finally. He finally had a chance to come over and catch his breath and get caught up with everything Atlanta, you know. So Miranchuk gets a winter to kind of chill, pardon the pun. Now you get everybody acclimated, and you bring in Latelat, you bring in Miggy, and that's where we are right now. So match week, people, that's where we are. Now that is there, I know that as the week goes on, there are going to be a couple of things that we're going to look at. What is the outside back situation? Probably something while Brooks Lennon is rehabbing some kind of combination of Ronald Hernandez and Matthew Edwards, probably, or Luis Abram, somewhere in there. So it could be Abram and Ronald Hernandez, Abram on the left, Ronnie on the right. Could be Ronnie on the left, Matt Edwards on the right. We'll see what it looks like. You go with experience coming out of the blocks, probably. So it might be Luis and Ronnie at the back while we're waiting. Don't know. And this is, once again, caveat, not knowing the progress of Pedro Amador. But when Amador is healthy, obviously he's on the left, Ronnie's on the right, and you go from there. So that, I think, is the only real starting 11 question that we have going in. This week, keep an eye on Pedro Amador, figure out where things are with Pedro, and then you figure out that's your left back, that's your right back. But you're looking at what? Brad, left back, right back, Derek, Stian, Sleesh, Click. That's 6, 7. And then it's Slam. So that's your 11 right now. So just the biggest question right now is the health of Pedro Amador and what does that do to the outside back situation. So that's where we are with Montreal. That is what's up. Going with Atlanta United. All right, let's take a peek at what's on y'all's mind. Once again, I had asked for predictions. If you got them, you got them. Like I said, you know, it's just, once again, it's something for the week. It's like your homework for the week. If you got it, you got it. Cool. Like I said, Bart Keeler is going to join us in about 15 minutes. So we'll say hi to everybody and get you wound up with what's going on. All right. So, yeah, Ricky, this week's going to be, man, this week. All right, so legitimately, here's, all right, so I'm going to check in with our friends at AccuWeather, and I'm going to go with the daily forecast. So Monday, we know what it is. Okay, so great. So Monday. Fine. What's the rest of them? It's like daily. I need the 10-day is what I need. And so, of course, AccuWeather's not going to give it to me. But I will take Ricky's word for it that it's going to be frigid. We're in a commercial break over on the Big 55, so I might take a peek and find out what the weather's going to be like. So, yeah, it's going to be frigid. Apparently, the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza matchup between Sporting and Messi and Friends is going to be completely and totally frigid. The field in and of itself is heated. It has a heating mechanism in it, and the field itself will be 50 degrees. But the weather in Kansas City is not going to be what it could be. So this week, by the way, 10-day forecast. Today, high of 20, low of 0. Tuesday, high of 6, low of -2. Wednesday, cloudy, Kansas City, high of 9 and a low of -8. Thursday, 12 and a Thursday, 12. It's mostly sunny on Thursday, and it's a high of 12 degrees. A high of 12 degrees on Thursday. Thursday, people. Thursday. High of 12. High of 12. Nothing like that. That's Thursday. That is ridiculous. Tomorrow in Kansas City, the weather is going to be single digits. And I know that everybody's sitting there going, yeah, you know, that's fine. A high of 6 and a low of -2 in Kansas City tomorrow for Kansas City and Messi and Friends. 65% chance of snow showers. Winds north-northeast at 13. So that's tomorrow. Denver and LAFC, by the way. So let's check and see Denver and LAFC. So if it's going to be a high of 6 on Tuesday in Kansas City, Tuesday in Denver, it will be warmer, but not by much. A high tomorrow in Kansas City of 22 degrees. I mean, in Denver of 22 degrees. 22 degrees. Partly cloudy, and so Commerce City, Colorado might be less, considering this is like out by Wyoming. Tuesday, 22 degrees in Denver, downtown Denver, partly cloudy, and a low of 4. So Commerce City might be warmer by a little bit, but not by much once you get past the sun, when the sun rotates away. So you got that on Tuesday. Then Herediano and RSL and Antigua and Seattle and Motagua and Cincinnati on Wednesday. But Sporting and Colorado might be interesting to look at just from a spectator's point of view. And we'll go into juice boxes tomorrow, especially with the conditions being what they are. But yes, Ricky, I am right there with you. I will pass. I'm going to watch them on TV. Well, actually, I can't because I'll be at Tuesday. I might be listening be up at Appalachia. But no, we'll be paying attention. Be a fun look. So we'll see. Abby's in this morning. Morning, Abby. Morning, everybody. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the block party. And much to no one's surprise, everybody's excited for the first match. Ricky earlier said rumors about Messi not wanting to play in Kansas City because of how cold it's going to be. Or does he go out there and play and just get mad? Him and Suarez, I mean, they're just getting mad. You know, Messi with the emo haircut that he's currently got going on, you score like 3 goals in the first 20 minutes. Peter Vermes, under normal circumstances, is always a fun watch. What about cold Peter Vermes? especially cold trailing Peter Vermes. What's that going to look like? Everybody's going to be wearing like the big puffy coats on the sidelines with the hoods up and everything. Will you be able to see Peter Vermes be mad? That will be a big question. What is Peter Vermes going to look like? Abby is absolutely true. The documentary premiere is this afternoon, and so keeping an eye on that. Tailgate is in lot 17. Reminder by Abby and Ricky. Yeah, 22 degrees, and that was why I was like, it's 22 out right now. I'm like, nope. The rowdy man actually went outside. He peed. He came back in. He was done. Literally, he climbed back into his bed, and we better have the heater pointed at him, or it's not going to be a successful day. I mean, A probably has, and Abby's like going to be 40 degrees at noon without the wind chill, feeling like 34. But A, being the professional runner that he is, and I mean that in the sense of always prepared. Me, when I go out and I do my 4 miles, it's like, ratty T-shirt, maybe an undershirt, sweatpants, and all that. I'm sure Abe has all like the technical gear to be a successful runner. I'm sure he's got all that stuff. So for him, it's just protecting the face and everything. So that's what it's looking like. And Ricky, with probably one of the bigger points of the preseason, after a couple of weeks, Ricky still has no idea how they got Mateus Click for a pack of cigarettes and made DC pay for it. It's like, look, we'll help you out. It literally, and the DC GM admitted we were over a barrel. We had to do something. And Atlanta said, well, we'll take him off your hands, but DC had to agree to it. But yeah, literally it was a pack of smokes, some of those barrel fruit drinks, and maybe some sofa pizza. And that's how you got Mateus Click. And I've got to get the click, click, boom drop, as a matter of fact. I got to write that down. So to add to everything, I've got to go click, click, boom. I've got to add that because we know we have sabotage, but I got to add click, click, boom this year. So I wrote that down. There we go. And Abby is sticking with Slam. So that means we might be hearing some Onyx at the Mercedes-Benz. Make noise, be boys. So that might be, and before the other goal music, but you might hear with one of them when one of them scores. Maybe you hear some Onyx. I don't know. And yes, and players they get the odd jersey numbers. I'm all for that. If a player wants to be 99, let him. You'll be 49, fine. 59, fine. Absolutely zero issues. Morning, Tom. Morning, Abby. Ricky wants 12 points first 6 matches, so an average of 2. That's about right. And Ricky's not worried about NYC or the Red Bulls. And the format is the same, with the 8-9 and all that kind of stuff. So Abby flying back from South Florida for the Messi and Friends match in March. And yes, it will be an interesting plane flight. They're going to be folks dressed in pink. Andy, the left coast being the best coast. Thanks for dropping by this morning, as you always do. And Abby's like, yeah, winning Supporter Shield tends to be a curse. So, yeah, the pie plate, the appetizers, you don't want it. Finish second. And will Atlanta United finish ahead of Miami? Ricky being confident. Too many comps on older legs. Ricky says Atlanta, Cincinnati finished top 2. He doesn't know the order. And the Soccer for Good OG is excited with all the options. So, obviously, very, very excited about that. Tom, one of Miami's big 4, will miss significant time. This is Tom's prediction that we put in the bottle, right, in the safe, in the floorboard. One of Miami's big 4 is going to miss significant time with injury this year. Another year older in a tough league. Morning, David. And, yes, yeah, another microphone to the cornucopia of microphones. And, yes, if someone else is doing the technical stuff, we'll all be better off. Absolutely true. David feels like we started well first 5 games and then troubled with the Ozzie Alonso injury. Yeah. Ricky's prediction, Canada shut out of the MLS playoffs. We're hoping to catch up with our buddy James Sharman up in Toronto. And we'll get the Robin Fraser vibe. And we'll find out about them and Montreal and Vancouver. Yeah, Vancouver would be the one to me that would be on the edge. a little bit more on the edge than normal, where Vanni Sartini had them competing in the top 4 and then they faded, but we're still in. I think it's going to be close to them getting in, period. Toronto, don't know under Robin Fraser. Hopefully, like I said, we'll catch up with our buddy James Sharman and get the information for that. And Montreal, we'll see. Yep. Center back injuries last year. Didn't remember the year in between. 3 players, double-digit assists. That's David's prediction. OG's prediction, don't sleep on the purple team. But Ricky wonders what they're going to be like without Facundo Torres. And, yes, Abby, Thursday is going to be a lot. She believes us at at our third Thursday event at Moxie at 7. Load in, all the flags, all the things. So there you go. And there's a discussion on the 3-2 goal, by the way, in the timeline. But yes, the original update on what's up with Pedro Amador. Dominic Chong-Kui, David's asking if I'm not giving the 17-year-old the start. DCQ, I don't know if I start him. Like I said, I think that it's going to be some combination of Ronnie Abram and Matt Edwards. And I'm thinking it might be Luis on the left and Ronnie on the right. No, he said this is, once again, not knowing Pedro Amador's health status. Don't know. So, I mean, you could start Abram on the left. Maybe it's Ronnie on the left, Matt Edwards on the right. So we'll see what it looks like. Ricky, with our weather report, yeah, I will pass. And that's why a dome works. Oh, boy. That's candy cigarettes for me. Yeah. Spring training. Absolutely true. And Michael doesn't care one bit about the pie plate. Does not care one bit. You're not the only one. And and by the way, Four Nations face-off final is Thursday as well. That 3 fights in 9 minutes with the USA and Canada, it literally was a throwback to the 90s and the World Cup. The Kachuk brothers, back-to-back fights. And then JT Miller was looking for Colton Parayko before they fought the third time. I think it was in the first scrum where JT Miller's looking at Colton Parayko and they're going back and forth. But yeah, the 3 fights in 9 seconds. It was great television, and the fans in Montreal were fired blank up. But who won? I believe that'd be the U.S. 3-1, by the way, in that matchup. And as a fan of the hockey, the really cool element with Team USA where the player of the game gets the Johnny Gaudreau jersey, gets the Johnny Gaudreau sweater as the player of the game from the players themselves. They wanted to keep Johnny Gaudreau as a part of the element of that team. And so player of the game for the game gets the Johnny Gaudreau sweater. So very, very cool stuff. And his widow Meredith has come out on social media and has been a big fan of that and keeping Johnny there. And Johnny's father, Guy, has been at practice during Four Nations. And this is my pet peeve for hour number 1 anyway. We still haven't gotten into opening kickoff category. And it's going to be Creek Cup that we talked about, that we were broadcasting all last week. But NHL Shop, if they had the Four Nations gear in French, I would buy it. Just because the translation of the Four Nations face-off is the Confrontation de number 4 Nation 2025. I would buy the Confrontation t-shirt, but apparently they don't sell them. They just have the Four Nations face-off in English. I would buy the French gear in a heartbeat because it's gorgeous. And how many times can you have the word confrontation on a t-shirt? Anyway, and that's me and my shopping peeve for the morning. Hour number 2, and once again, wasting no time. And because of this, that means that we go and we check out as he adjusts his headphones. First off, here we go. We're bringing Bart Keeler. Speak to me.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I good? All right.
Yes.
See, all we
Yes.
needed was a new headset and figuring out devices.
But doesn't that feel good?
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't it absolutely feel good? So Bart is here to kick off hour number 2. And there's a lot of stuff that we got to get into. There's a lot of national stuff that we got to get into. Men's to tease episode 110. Women's because they got stuff going on. The youth national team at U17. Where, sir, would you like to start? Question mark.
Let's start with the U17s. Since they're the ones with the most cool thing to talk about this morning, you know?
Yeah. All right. So
We have,
U17s,
John, I read
rock and roll.
I read that we have qualified for 19 of the 20 U17 World Cups.
Okay.
And I don't know about you, that sounds like a really awesome stat. That alone, I think, should bring confidence to U.S. fans to say that something we are doing right is identifying talented players at the U17 level. Now, we can debate if those are all the talented players that exist in this country or not. But in this specific qualification tournament, which was... I did not like this format. We can talk about that if we really want to. I didn't know how it was going to play out in the beginning, and it's quite silly now. But in this particular format, you needed to stamp your dominance, not just in this group, but in your region. And I thought the team did that. I thought the team as a whole looked, well, it's hard to say they looked great against John, but they looked motivated. Let's just put it that way. They did not allow what was very clearly a unmatched, unprepared, just a not very good opponent, especially in the first game, to keep them from trying to be the best version of themselves they could be. That first game, 22-0 over the British version, or the U.S. Virgin Islands, was a holistic beatdown. They continued that, though, against St. Kitts and Nevis. And I think that was kind of the important thing, John, to see, again, were they still motivated and committed and determined? The Cuba game we knew was going to be the tough one. To be fair, all we had to do was not lose because the goal differential was so large. But the fact that they get a 2-0 win there as well is really impressive. And they just need to be praised for, again, their constant focus on getting the job done, because it can be hard, especially when you have a game. It felt like every other hour they were playing a game. But those types of tournaments at this youth level can be concerning because you're going to have to rotate. And you saw a lot of rotation from game 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3. And everyone who stepped on the field kept their head, kept their focus. And, a couple of them particularly showed that they're pretty darn adept at this whole soccer thing.
The lineup in game number 3, for those that don't know, U.S. beats Cuba by the final of 2-0 in Alajuela, Costa Rica. Court Camp Giovilla, Christopher Cups, Enrique Martinez, Pedro Guimaraes, Cooper Sanchez with Atlanta United, Jude Terry, Luca Moisa got 20 minutes, Maximo Carrizo, who is a certifiable pain in the you-know-what with NYCFC. Kellen LeBlanc comes in for a handful of minutes after that. Chance Cowell, yes, of that family. Tanner Roseborough came on at the half. Chase Adams. Cristiano Oliveira came on for a cup of coffee. Jameer Johnson, Lorenzo Cornelius, not used in game 3. Owen Pratt, William McKay, Rami Samuda, who made an impact in match number 1, Jordan Griffin, and Axel Unastegui under Gonzalo Segarra. So that was the lineup for the U17s in this one. But let me ask you this. When it comes to the tournament now being in this format, where it's 8 groups, 4 teams each, you win your group you're in, you've expanded the field to 32 teams, and you have a moment like the U.S. had against the U.S. Virgin Islands where you put up 22 It was 14-0 at the break, 22-0 when you're done.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of folks will look at a match like that and they will wonder why the U.S. Virgin Islands is even in this tournament. But I would maintain that as you grow a tournament and as you grow the game, you're inviting teams in, and these teams get to learn about what it's like to be in a tournament format, to try and qualify for something, because the U.S. Virgin Islands program will not grow. The St. Kitts and Nevis program will not grow. I'll look at the other U17s and see if there were any teams that were, finishing fourth that were along the lines of the U.S. Virgin Islands in a sec. But you can't have growth in the game if you're going to expand a field and not have moments like this that are learning experiences for both the team that puts up the number and the team that lets in all the goals. It's a learning experience for that program that's in a tournament like this for the first time.
That is absolutely the best, most positive way to look at it, John. And we have to also remember that CONCACAF's job, right, is to grow the game in North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. So to your point, that is what their goal is for this tournament. Canada had a plus 26 goal differential, right? So they were not going to face that many problems. I do envy a little bit a team. So you look at Group B, Costa Rica and Trinidad. Okay, well, those are two teams that are a little more tightly connected. The reality is, if you're a team like the United States and Mexico, especially, who, by the way, only had a plus 17 goal differential, but they had slightly better competition in their group. I'm trying to be nice about this, John, so I'm sorry.
Sure. No, and I get it. And I find
the reality is the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and then some like Costa Rica. Our youth programs are so much better because there is youth soccer in this country that has some level of organization and actual investment. At the 17 level, there's a lot of weird things that happen at youth levels. There can be a particular group that gets hot. We've seen Nigeria win how many youth World Cups and Olympics and not do really anything. I think Ukraine has won youth World Cups, didn't really do anything. It's hard to say this means any real growth for any national team. But as we are seeing now with the USA, Mexico, Canada, and a couple others, the gulf between the haves and the have-nots is going to continue to increase. That said, I do agree with you that having the U.S. Virgin Islands or Aruba or, St. Martin, be able to participate in these tournaments gives those players an unforgettable experience. And hopefully the federations can take something back and improve. Now, that said, John, that's the group stage. What really bothers me is there's no something else after it.
Yeah.
And I do think that is a missed opportunity for CONCACAF. However, I think only playing 3 games over the space of a week and a half probably is better format for the USA, Mexico, Canada, Costa Rica teams, the countries that have legitimate domestic leagues, right? That sometimes utilize youth players, or who have, like USA, Mexico, especially because Canada doesn't really have a professional soccer league. Don't tell me anything about CDL. Sorry. Canada and USA have academy leagues even, run by those professional clubs. It is easier to get those kids out for a week and a half, 2 weeks, than expanding the tournament another 3 match days. So I understand this tightrope that CONCACAF is walking, but as a fan, 22-0, 7-0 with 43 shots. You're not taking anything away from that. I'm really sorry. That it's just good to get the kids together. It's good to get them in line with a coach, by the way, who I absolutely love, Gonzalo Segares, who I remember watching very fondly for the Chicago Fire for many years. That is a positive, but they're not. I'm sorry, you didn't really learn anything from this this U.S. Virgin Islands game, right? You're not learning that much, other than Chase Adams could put the ball in the back of the net pretty darn good. So.
Yes. We have been made aware. I have heard. All right. So in the game against Cuba, and we'll go through the U17 layout here in a second. 32-5 in shots, 12-3 shots on goal, 10 saves by the Cuban keeper, by the way, 29 corners for the U.S. to 6 for Cuba, 21 fouls to the U.S. for 10 for Cuba, and 3 offsides, 2 for Cuba on the day. So here's the layout for the U17 World Cup. 9 teams from Asia, 10 from CAF, meaning Africa.
John, before you get too far in there, y'all, you need a pen, a paper, a diagram. This is convoluted, so pay attention.
Yeah, so here's the layout for the U17s in Qatar in November, I believe, if the memory is correct. So 9 teams total, 48 teams qualify for the final, in addition to Qatar, who qualify automatically as hosts. 47 teams from the other 6 confederations. A new expanded slot allocation per confederation approved back on May 15th of last year. 9 teams from Asia, which include Qatar, 10 from Africa, 8 from CONCACAF, the 8 group winners from the tournament that we just had, 7 from South America, 3 from Oceania, and 11 from Europe. So right now, literally it is Qatar. CONCACAF figured it out with this past weekend. So it's Canada, Costa Rica, Mexico, Honduras, Haiti, the U.S., Panama, and El Salvador. So CONMEBOL is going to have the 2025 U17 championship. The winner through 7th place are going to be the ones to advance.
Right.
In Oceania, it's Fiji, New Caledonia, New Zealand. UEFA's got to figure theirs out too. So we have 3, 4, we have 12. We have 1/4 of the field figured out because CONCACAF got their tournament squared away. Oceania got their tournament squared away, and Qatar is grandfathered in because they're hosting the deal. So it will be, once again, I think, one of these tournaments, kind of like what we've been talking about with the CONCACAF U17, where you have at the bottom of Group A Anguilla, who lost all 4, scored 3 goals. Bottom of Group B, you mentioned St. Martin. They didn't score a goal in the entire tournament and gave up 28. Dominica in Group C scored once, gave up 20. Group D, Bonaire scored once, gave up 15. Group E, St. Vincent, meaning like St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Vincent, lost all 3, scored once, gave up 13.
Well, that's because they lost the Grenadines.
Yeah. Yeah. If you had your Grenadines, you'd be okay. Group G, Grenada scored once, gave up 14. Group H, the Cayman Islands, scored once, gave up 23. So I think we're going to have more of these experiences in this tournament come November. But once again, when you expand to 48, you're going to have moments like this. But like I said, you can't grow the game if you're going to grow the game and you're going to expand a tournament and the status is where it is when it comes to any particular age group or level of competition, you're going to have moments like we had in this tournament. You just hope that those confederations learn from it.
Yeah, and I think part of the thing, too, is if you look at the group leaders, right? El Salvador, Panama, U.S., Haiti, Honduras, Mexico, Costa Rica, Canada. None of those are particularly surprising. But it is, I think, if you're a U.S. fan, you would have liked to be in, say, a Group H, where you had El Salvador and Jamaica. Give me a team that you kind of feel something for, other than sadness that I can't go visit there. I don't think anything of Cuba, it's just, I'm sorry. And to your point, that's what I'm hoping we don't run into too much at the World Cup level. Now, the good thing about the World Cup level is you have a knockout phase, right? So you're going to get through this group phase where you're going to probably, face some teams that are, who knows what they're doing. Even in Europe, there are going to be some countries that are not putting out great youth national teams, right? South America is going to struggle to fill, I think, all of their slots with competitive teams. Africa, who knows? Their youth ranks are interesting. But hopefully, which again is the difference between the CONCACAF tournament that I don't like, because you're going to get I'm going to call them Liguillas for lack of a better term, John, because there are many tournaments within a tournament, and it's confusing as hell. you're going to get some level of like real competition once you get out of the group. And I think that is the important part for the U.S. And that's, again, you made it to you're not, we knew we weren't going to get great competition in this tournament. We never really do until we get to a semifinal and final ever. That's just how this works. We didn't have that this time. So again, the goal for the World Cup come October is get out of the group, hopefully win your Ligia, and then you're playing teams that are really going to test you, teach you, help you build, and that's to me what the goal should be for Zagaras and his staff.
That is the YNT. Let's talk about the WNT, because She Believes is going to be coming up very, very quickly. You've got 2 matches in between now and the time of your next regularly scheduled visit on the 24th. Going to be in Houston on the 20th, then in Glendale for match number 2.
I'm going to try to beat that record that Atlanta set last time, by the way. Good luck to you, Phoenix. Sorry.
Yes, salute. We're watching. And you have, we'll go over the roster here in a sec, but Emily Sonnet's going to be honored for her 100th cap for the match in Houston on the 20th. And you get sisters on the roster, 4 uncapped players, first ever event. And once again, it's another time for Emma Hayes to sit there and look and color outside the lines a little bit and bring in folks that you sit there and a thought bubble comes out over your head and you're going, what? And so Emma Hayes is going in these directions to bring in these kinds of players. The roster, for those that may not know, 21 field, 2 keepers. Jane Campbell, Mandy McGlynn in net.
Mandy Hout, by the way.
Yes.
Who we saw in the fall.
Yes. Defenders, 8. Davidson, Dunn, Fox, McEwen, Niswanger, Sams, Sonnet, Giselle Thompson. 6 midfielders, Albert, Coffey, Lindsay Heaps.
Formerly Haran.
Yes, Lindsay Heaps. We have to remember that. Claire Hutton, Jaden Shaw, Lily Johannes. Forwards, Lynn Biondolo, Lynn Williams.
Former Williams.
Yes. Michelle Cooper, Katarina Macario, Yasmin Ryan, Emma Sears, Ali Sentner, Alyssa Thompson. So you look at that group, and let's start with just the group in general before we look at the minnows here. When you look at this group heading into She Believes, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
The 2 thoughts. First is, obviously, no triple espresso, right? And then no Naomi Girma. So your core 4, right? The ones that are written in pen on a lineup sheet. Not there. And for various reasons, most of it just like, we don't need them. Take your rest. That allowed Emma Hayes to open up the roster a little bit and be a little bit more exploratory. And I think that's what you see with a lot of these players that you're like, wait, why are they called in or stuff like that? It does feel like she is truly trying to expand her player pool, right? We know that the U.S. women's national team has an expansive and talented pool of players. We've known that forever. But one of the problems we've had a lot in the past, we talked about it here, a lot of reasons, mainly because of a contract that required it almost. Your player pool actually felt very small. And so what Emma's trying to do here is expand her own roster, if you will. That Rolodex that she's keeping, I'm assuming she has, just a big board of players that she's got in her office. She's trying to add to that because, as we saw in 2023, the problem wasn't that our starters weren't good enough. The problem was we didn't feel like we could bring in players that we trusted. Ashley Sanchez didn't play a minute, players like that. So I think for Hayes, she is trying to get acquainted with as many players as possible. That said, I want to point out one player that I think is not just an exploratory measure, but I'm really excited for her as we continue to grow, because we talked about left back being a potential tryout area. And that's Giselle Thompson, who has been very good in her very young career for Angel City, and can play left and right a little bit like Emily Fox, but mostly plays on the left, which, by the way, is the same side that her sister plays on, so that could be fun to watch that happen. She's the one who I think from all the kind of new players we're most excited to see. Now, I think other like Well, at least I'm excited to see. Other NWSL and WOSO nuts will be very excited to see Claire Hutton in there, because that's been a name that has been kind of thought of as someone who can really be a dynamic piece in that midfield. So there are a lot of names that I think are new that we're excited for, and who have earned through good performances in NWSL a call up, but it's clogged. Look, it's just the reality of the women's national team. So having some injuries to the top level of the roster allowed Emma Hayes to just go, well, let's bring in some new talent and really get an expansion. Now, obviously, John, we had 2 camps last month, and that helped her as well to kind of have the core group of players and then what she called the futures. And there's a couple from the futures that are on this roster, and that's kind of the good thing, is that we see that those were worthwhile.
Women's national team on the U17 side actually opens up camp Tuesday in West Palm. So first off, good for them for having camp in West Palm Beach, first and foremost, this time of year. So you have all of these different things in play. But for She Believes, when you look at the tournament now with this roster that is compiled, what are you looking at in She Believes with everybody else who's coming here to play in Houston and Glendale and all the other parts in between?
Well, I think one thing that I've always felt She Believes can and should do is uplift other women's national team programs in the Americas, right? Because, John, as you know, the European on the men's side has decreased how much they play outside of Europe. Well, the women's side is doing it too. They've got Nations League. I think they're done. Yeah, they're done with Euro qualifying, but they still got Nations League. They've still got all their, whatever you want to call them, She Believes cups that they do as well. They've become a little insular. So that really does almost force the women's national team program to look for other teams in this hemisphere. It gets a little old playing Canada and Brazil all the time, I'll be honest. So to get a team like Colombia, who we did see last year, by the way, but a team like Colombia, who, for my money, is probably the 4th best team in this hemisphere.
Okay.
They're behind Canada, Brazil, and us. They're definitely better than Mexico. That is a big get. Then you add Japan and Australia, 2 teams from Asia. Who, obviously, Australia, finished in a semifinal appearance last World Cup. Japan's a former World Cup winner. Those are good programs to get. They give you the highest level of competition, not named France, Germany, England, and that is very important, because as Europe decides to just be European, we're going to have to manufacture ways to get good competition for this team, and you're seeing it. I mean, because you have this tournament, and then what do we do in April, John? We play Brazil twice. So that is important, and something that I do think was, I don't know why, I can't say why, but one of the failures of that 2023 cycle was we played a lot of teams that just, quite frankly, weren't very good, and running up the score 12-0 isn't really helpful. And hopefully we can stop doing that, to be just frank, because we need to be playing better competition every time we can. That doesn't mean we can't play a team like, for example, when we played Argentina. That's fine. Argentina is in this hemisphere. We need to try to raise them up, but it doesn't really do you any good to continue to play a team like Uzbekistan, to be quite honest. So from that standpoint, this is massive. But this is also good for those programs, because they're all about just in the middle of / starting their 2027 qualification cycle. Colombia, I will say again, I'm going to harp on them. They've got a massive opportunity, John, I think, this cycle and in 2027, because where is the 2027 World Cup? Brazil, their neighbor, right across the border of the Amazons. And I think what we saw from them in 2023, they just need to prove they can do it in back-to-back World Cups, because they struggled with that. How do you build on that? And I think they've got some really young talent. They've obviously got players playing at high-level clubs, Madrid, Chelsea, and others. Massive for them to kind of show well in the first South American Women's World Cup.
So the matchup against Colombia is on Thursday at Hell in a Shell, kickoff at 8, and then on Sunday.
An underrated soccer venue. I just have to say that Shell Stadium, Park, Field, whatever it is now. The big orange donut. I gotta say, I liked that stadium the times I've been. So
Yep. So Hell in a Shell in Houston on Thursday, Sunday in Glendale at State Farm against Australia, and then we will reconvene in a week's time to talk about those two. Japan
Yeah.
is going to be on the 26th, so a week from Wednesday. That one's going to be at Snapdragon. I would anticipate that is going to be a pretty decent crowd for the Snapdragon facility.
that's
I know.
a 7:30 local start, so we got to stay up late. But for the locals in
Yes.
San Diego, that should be a good time for them to be able to get out there. So.
And 5:00 in the afternoon in Glendale and Eastern time. So that's 2, I think, if I remember correctly.
I don't know. We're doing daylight savings time in Arizona or not? But I don't know.
And that's the question. It's like I can't remember. I know that Indiana does their own thing, and I thought that Arizona did their own thing at one point, but I think Arizona may have fallen in line with.
I don't know if they're mountain or Pacific. I don't know.
They would be Pacific, but I don't know because I thought for a while they were just doing their own thing like Indiana. We're not changing, forget the rest of you. So I think
of all the states to model after, Indiana's not it. So they should be.
So I think Arizona's in line in the Pacific time zone. Before we get into the men's national team and talk,
I have plenty of time to do, John. By the way, I am off work.
Well, it is President's Day.
It is President's Day.
Yeah, so,
and in the great honor of John Portman, we worked on Martin Luther King Day, but we have President's Day off. So.
Yes, the man who decided he wanted to just build very tall buildings with points on the top. There's something.
Thank you, Abby. See, this is why we have Abster in the chat. She knows
all
these things.
Yes. So Arizona has not fallen in line. So it is 2:00 local time on a Sunday afternoon at Glendale, and we'll see what happens at State Farm. To tease POD a little bit, you came up with your list of 50. Yes. How many do you think you could do if you had a women's national team version of your 50-name show from the men's national team that is currently out for episode 10?
We would still be able to do 50, I think, a little bit easier, but also a little bit harder. They're going to be actual cuts made.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
What Thomas and I, as we got into it, US Keeper, shout out him, as we got into it, kind of toward, in some positions, most positions, you got toward the player, into the 40s, and you're like, I guess this player. And at that point, you are picking preferences. So, for example, I pick a guy like Richie Ledesma over a guy like Brian Reynolds as what ends up being a fourth-string right back. And nothing against either one of those. I'm just looking at Richie Ledesma playing for PSV in a better league than Brian Reynolds, and a guy who has the potential to play a little bit, has potential to play more positions and go, yeah, I like that dude. You look at goalkeepers. Roman Celentano is not out of my depth chart, but if I'm making a roster of 50, I'm going, he's just not in the 50 that I'm including as a goalkeeper, if that makes any sense. Patrick Auguming is there for the fact that we just don't have a whole lot of strikers. Does that make sense? So
yeah, it does.
On the women's side, you're looking at, there might be some striker depth issues, but I mean, you look at the wingers and you're going to have to make actual cuts. I mean, you could make a roster of probably 20 wingers who are pretty darn good on the maybe at least 10. So that would be the issue with the U.S. women's national team, and she would actually be making legitimate cuts. And that was one of the outcry that I saw on the interwebs this week, was people legitimately mad that their favorite wasn't called into this camp for She Believes. And I go, well, you're not wrong. I feel like always U.S. men's national team guys always make a big deal about snubs, and I'm like, y'all are debating like a four-string defensive mid who plays in nowhere that's really that useful. When you look at the women's national team and you have Claire Hutton, okay, well, you don't have Hal Hirschfeld. Are you telling me she's not? Yeah, we don't know, but they're in your 50, and there are other. Andy Sullivan. Congrats to her. Announced this past week that she'll be having a baby. But maybe without that, I would have been like, well, Andy Sullivan's still in my midfield consideration. I strongly feel that. But at what point do you go, well, I can't include 10 at every position? And that would be the struggle with the women's national team. So you could go pretty far. But we did 50, John, because that is normally the roster size for that preliminary roster for an international tournament. So I mean, again, you could just go and list players all you want and try to rank them in a depth chart, but that's not how it works. Oh, we're talking USA Canada hockey in the chat. All right, let's throw the gloves down, y'all. Sorry, got distracted.
Nothing. Well, yeah. Gee, welcome to the club.
John, I have to say, I think that is the smartest thing that NHL and hockey people have done in a very long time.
The Four Nations
The
face
Four
off.
Nations.
Yeah, I mean, it was
Exactly.
like I mean, considering how things are today with the climate, you get USA and Canada together.
Well,
I mean, that's just adding to it. But under normal circumstances, USA and Canada, and I talked about it a little bit, especially with what Johnny Gaudreau means to to Team USA and everything, having that as an added dimension to that locker room as well, to have all of this. I love these kinds of international competitions. You had in the 70s, you had Canada Cup, things like that. To have four nations, I really dig it. The Swedes and the Finns don't like each other on the ice.
no.
The USA and Canada, they don't like
Yep.
each other on the ice. Go ahead and line them up.
It's actually, and I think those are the perfect four nations to bring in, and obviously they're represented well in the NHL. That's like the main reason I think that those were the four picked. But I got news for y'all: the Canadians and Americans were going to throw down their gloves any which way, no matter what y'all want to bring into politics of the situation. They were going to fight one way or another.
Yep.
We've watched this play out how many daggum times, John? I'm telling you. I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
men's, women's, it's going to be a scrap.
Bring it. Absolutely. Okay. We are about 31 days away from Nations League with the men's national team, so we got a little bit of time with there. All right, I'm going to get into reffing down here.
All right.
And
Let's go to our friend Dale.
Yeah, and
by the way, props to Dale. I had to sign in with my ESPN account to actually read his thing today. That was
yes,
weird.
very. It's Dale does good work for a reference point for us, and I know that there was one thing that you had in your account from the championship that I wanted to get into from a reffing perspective.
Yeah, I do want to get into that,
and we'll talk about that in a sec. Let's go to Liverpool and Wolves, and the idea of keeper Jose Sa making contact with a player goes down, the ball had already passed.
Yeah,
that don't mean nothing.
Well, I think this is just a bigger representation of the referee scam to get Liverpool to win the title over Arsenal.
said Arsenal fan. Yes.
Mm-hmm. But no, let's talk about this penalty kick.
Sure.
If you watch this game, look, this is one of those that I will give. I think it was Simon Hooper, right? Yeah. This looked like a foul in live action. It truly does, right? It's hard for the referee to make that because of just the angles that we're going at. Sa slides in front of Diaz. Diaz is trying to get out of the way, and if you're looking at it straight on, you would assume that there was contact of some sort that made Diaz look like a flopping fish or a salmon trying to jump over a dam. And then you look at it on VAR and you go, oh no, that was simulation. And the question that Dale Johnston does pose, and I think is a very legitimate question, and again, this leads to my thought that there is some sort of conspiracy to allow Liverpool to win the league, is this should have been a yellow card for Diaz. It is absolutely 100% simulation. Now, you could argue that the simulation was to get out of the way, but this was simulation, and it probably should have been booked as a yellow card. Let's just put it this way, had they made that call in live action and said, no, that's not a foul, I bet the referee blows his whistle for an indirect free kick for simulation and gives Diaz the yellow card. I don't know why he didn't do it here, but he didn't.
And that was going to be my follow-up question. When it comes to giving cards the other way in this situation, and not just in a PK, kind of a deal, but there are other times in attack where, you don't get the foul called for simulation. And is it something from your purview that needs to be done more, where you don't get the card for simulation a whole lot, you just don't get the foul called, you don't get the foul called on the defensive player, but you also don't get simulation called on the offensive player, if I'm making any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are obviously times where you could go, that's not a foul, but also go, well, it's not really simulation. And I do think this could be perceived as not simulation. It's just hard for me to look at that and go, really? You think that he wasn't trying to simulate a foul there? This just should have been a yellow card. But there are times absolutely where you're going to have a penalty kick reviewed and go, oh, that's not really a foul, but it's not a simulation because of a number of reasons. You could have, uh, for example, a tackle that the defender wins the ball, right? But then possibly the the attacker has to jump over the defender. Well, that's not simulation. But this is the case where this was pretty much simulation.
Yeah, and so you end up with that. And one of the others that I wanted to get into was the Lerma goal in Everton and Crystal Palace. Palace thought they'd taken a lead on a header by Jefferson Lerma. AR raises the flag to indicate the ball had gone out of play before it comes back in. Could VAR prove the ball hadn't gone out? And so VAR's decision was no goal. And according to Dale now, assistants or ARs are now instructed not to signal that the ball has gone out of play when there's an obvious attacking situation. Much like offside, it's to make sure that VAR can come into play if there's been an error before the goal has scored. The on-field decision always has the weight. VAR needed definitive proof that the ball hadn't gone out. So ARs now have to keep their flag down when it comes to a ball and the end line.
I don't love this, but I understand it because much like with offside, you're either offside or you're not, and the ball is either in play or it's not. So because we have very distinguished lines of demarcation, right? Of is this a thing or is it not a thing? Keeping your flag down to allow play to continue. And then once that attacking chance is cleared, putting your flag up makes sense because it is much easier to go back and say, yes, this was, or yes, it wasn't. I do want to say, though, I think with balls in and out of play on the goal line, it's a little bit harder because unless you have a camera right on that goal line, which not everyone does, it's going to be hard to have an actual angle to prove ball in or out of play. But you go with the referee's call and then say, do I need to intervene? And I think on this one, they reviewed it, but realized that there was nothing that they could definitively say it was in or out, if I remember the sequence of events correctly.
And you mentioned the idea of being able to see from a VAR perspective whether a ball is in or out. Another element in that comes from the Crystal Palace match where VAR is at the mercy of your camera positions. And there are some venues where you have, and I'm going to get into TV talk down here for a second, where you have cameras that are positioned. Basically, what we like to have in a perfect world is two high cameras and what we call slashes. And the slashes are the ones that are down the lines, and they can look at things either further down or from a 45-degree angle from the corner of the end zone, say, if you're thinking at it from American football purview. So in a perfect world, what you want, if you can get away with it, two high cameras and two more down the line so you can see what's going on. At Selhurst Park, they don't have the space to be down even with the 18s. They're tucked in a little further. And so when you have a VAR situation, specifically at a venue like that, yeah, you can draw lines all you want, but it may not necessarily be 100% accurate because your cameras are closer in. You're drawing your VAR lines further out where your cameras need to be further down the line. We've seen this in other competitions at CONCACAF. I think we've seen it. And I think we've seen it in a couple of Major League Soccer venues too, where your cameras are tucked tight and you don't have that opportunity to be down the line to see things. And that's something you have to take into mind as well. And VARs are kind of sitting there and they're trying to extrapolate with information, and angles might be off and skewed and everything. And so it's something else that has to be considered here.
Right. Which is why the referees are still told to keep their flag down and then say, yes, this ball was out of play. Because again, we're going back to the referee's decision. And this decision was ball was out of play. VAR couldn't confirm or deny it. That's really what it comes down to, and you stick up for it. But again, in most cases, you should be able to see something. Now, again, the real issue that you have in soccer, and I think we've talked about this, but to your football example, John, even in the back of the end zone, right? you can see, was there a foot on or off the line?
Mm-hmm.
That is a lot easier to tell than a soccer ball being fully over or still maybe possibly having a hanging chad on the line. And that is the struggle with soccer, period. But again, the ball is either in play or it is out of play. There is no judgment to that outside of looking to make sure that it was in or out of play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So with these types of calls, it totally makes sense to go, let's wait until the attacking phase is over, the attacking threat is over, and then put that flag up, because if there is a goal scored, we can go back and check it like normal. And if not, oh well, okay. We put the flag up, we got a goal kick.
Okay. Hydrate for a second, because I've got one more before we get into what you wanted to get into with activity from the championship.
Yep.
Real Madrid execs met with the head of Spain's refereeing body today after the club filed a formal complaint over the ref's decision in their loss at Espanyol earlier this month. And this is from our friends at the Four-Letter, Kirkland and Pfizer, the article, the writers of the article. Came out about an hour ago. Madrid, furious at referee Alejandro Muñiz Ruiz for opting not to send off an Espanyol player for a challenge on Mbappe, with that defender later scoring the game's only goal, sent an open letter to the Spanish Football Federation requesting access to audio of conversations between officials surrounding the incident. The complaint accused officials of, quote, manipulation and adulteration, end quote, of the competition. Sounds like something that you would see in a boxing promo. There's been manipulation and adulteration of the competition, saying that Spain's refereeing system was completely discredited in allegations which drew a response from the Fed, La Liga, and other clubs. So Madrid's director general and the secretary of the board go to headquarters to listen to the VAR audio and for discussions with the head of Spain's technical committee. Quote, it's normal that there are questions that have to be asked about an incident. We talked about various issues which are internal, not internal because they're secret, but because they're private matters which relate to the CTA and a club which comes here to talk to us, and we talk to them. Meeting took a while because within an atmosphere of friendliness and good manners, that's what had to happen. If there'd been a confrontation, which isn't what anybody expected or wanted, the meeting would have been over in 5 minutes. It was so long because we spoke with absolute transparency and truth. Madrid have complained about refereeing decisions in La Liga, with the club's TV channel highlighting errors from officials. Madrid obviously unhappy with decisions and a draw with Atletico Madrid and a draw with Osasuna. So sources tell the Four-Letter after the meeting, Real Madrid still unable to understand the decision not to send off Romero. Club have demanded changes, but believe their complaint has left them exposed given refereeing decisions in subsequent games. By contrast, the Federation felt the talks had been positive. Madrid had been treated the same way as any other club. When a team or a club or what have you feels aggrieved and consistently aggrieved when it comes to you being an official, if there's always this us against the world mentality, well, you guys are calling things against us and against this and against this. I don't know if you've had conversations with referee friends of yours, in divisions or higher divisions or anything
John,
like
as
that.
you know, this is what we get into. I'll just say this: what we get into at our level, right? Is I mean, you've heard the term home cooking, right? That's what we always you joke about that all the time. People at our level seem to think that I am an employee of whatever home club I happen to be at that day. And the reality is, no, I just go where they pay me. And what mostly happens is basically your salary is split from both teams, right? That's what happens. So, but that we just laugh about it, right? The home cooking aspect, because people allege that it's a home cooking and they're like that kind of. Especially when we get a team. I'm not calling out the entire state, but a little bit. Teams from South Carolina do this all the time. They seem to think they come to Georgia. I'm like, no, y'all just aren't as good. But anyway, that was not true this weekend. By the way, I had a great South Carolina United team playing. They were very fun to watch and referee. Shout out to the U10 South Carolina United girls. They were great. But a lot of South Carolina, especially CISA, a lot of those teams will come down here and complain about refereeing. Some from Alabama do it too, but they're from Alabama. You gotta give them a little grace. They don't really know how to act outside of those borders. But it is a joke that we talk about. But there are there are, how do I put this nicely? There's a coach specifically that I referee for, and I usually get his games because he's a U19 coach, and I usually get U19 or 17 because those are the ones that are most likely to have, as I like to call it, the XSS, expected stupid shit, and that increases.
Rating for Monday.
Well, it's President's Day, John, so I think the explicit rating should be on there already. Oh, sorry, no politics down here.
Yeah,
But
fired up in the.
I have one coach who's a U19 coach, and he is genuinely a nice guy. He's friendly with all the players, but man, he just thinks every referee is out to get him personally, and I'm like, dude, don't care about you that much. And I think that's what's going on here. Is I will say about this specifically. I don't think Madrid are going about this because, well, yes, they feel personally aggrieved. I do think Madrid has some level of like, no, we need our refereeing to be better, period. I do read that from a lot of their complaints. That said, I'm not going to have a lot of sympathy for one of the richest clubs in the world, not with the best player in the world, multiple of the best players in the world, not being able to beat a team that isn't better than them. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And that's just what I want to go to always back to is, believe it or not, I had this issue with coach this weekend. Not too bad, but I do you know how many times, John, I want to tell a coach, my refereeing was bad, not your player's inability to string two passes together. That is somehow my fault. And that's where I think Real Madrid are struggling right now is, they're not winning the league by 27 points like they feel like they should be because they have the best player in the world and probably the second best player in the world. Debatable which one is 1 and 2. You pick. I'm not here to tell you which one is which, but it does read a little spoiled brat, but I think there is some actual good-hearted motivation behind it. It does seem like they genuinely want.
Does that leave them open down the line because they go to the league office and complain for the?
I mean, look, I'm not gonna. I would not want and they could do this. Coaches can go to the league official or the league coordinators or the referee coordinators and say, "Oh, this referee is bad," and some have. I've had that. Not me personally, but I know that has happened before. And part of it is like, well, no, we do want you to, if there are legitimate cases of, especially the leagues I referee, right? And Real Madrid is in this case where you have a level of expectation for the competency and proficiency of the officials you have in your matches. A lot of the leagues I referee are, they might be considering themselves the league for elite clubs nationally, or might feel like they're a rival to the MLS Next program, and so they do have expectations of what they want their referees to be, and so there are levels of evaluations that referees will get from the coaches and the teams themselves. That is fine because we understand that they want to make sure that they have referees that they feel are up to their level. But I think the problem that I'll say is they think their level is way higher than they think it is, or lower than they think it is, I should say. And they think the referees should be at this level when they're actually playing at this level. And Spain should be at a high level of refereeing because of the footballing history of the country. Again, they have two of the biggest soccer brands in the world, right? But I think it's fair for Real Madrid to feel some type of way, but they need to remember that going after this because of personal grievances and because personally they feel like they haven't received good calls isn't the good way to go about it. This should be about making sure the sport and the referees are better. And again, are they investing in referee development at the youth level, at the young adult level, and at the lower league levels to help make those referees better fit for La Liga games? And that's the question that I'm going to keep coming back to them with is because if you're not doing that, then complaining about referees in the Liga isn't going to do you any good, because in theory, those are the best referees your country has. And the only way they're going to be at that level is because they've put in the work and the time and the education before they got there. And so are you doing anything to make the lower levels officiating better?
Yeah. And to continue with Real Madrid before the last point, apparently the review for Jude Bellingham is in the nuance. Bellingham is saying publicly that he said, I only said blank off to the referee, not blank you. And so that's the nuance that Real Madrid is going to present, I guess.
The problem for Jude is he has a history. And I know British, especially English players, they think that cursing is just supposed to be part of the game.
Yeah.
I had a soccer in the streets, the station soccer, but it's that soccer in the streets stuff. But I had a station soccer team that was mostly British guys, and they're great guys. They truly are, but they cursed a lot because that's just how they talk over there.
Yeah.
And I used to joke with them. And granted, this is just a full adult league, but I used to go, guys, this is for the kids. Can't say that.
Yeah.
Jude unfortunately has established a pattern of behavior, and I don't think he needs to get the benefit of the doubt just because he said F off instead of F you in this case, because while my normal bar was that's directed at me, that is a word that you shouldn't just be using in and around the referee. Let's just put it that way.
Okay. Now the one issue that I know that you wanted to bring up has to do with ref abuse on the field, and what referees and ARs are presented with in these situations. It was in the championship, I believe, and it was an incident involving a Burnley player, if I'm not mistaken, and it had to do with alleged verbal abuse on the pitch and what officials are confronted with in a situation like this.
So I found this tweet, and it has the video, so it very clearly shows what happened. Is a Burnley player, Hannibal Mejbri.
Actually, it's just Mabry.
Mabry, there you go.
Hannibal Mabry
appears to have been racially abused by Preston player in today's game. Clearly not happy about what he said and wanted the game stopped. So when you watch the video, something happens. They go off the field, and Plymouth player is walking behind Mabry, says something. Mabry goes off, not in a bad way, like is gesticulating and making a big deal of it, because clearly he feels like something was said that shouldn't be said.
Yep.
He goes to appeal to the referee, but the play is going on. I think it was a throw-in, so the throw's taken and we're playing. And he's still pleading with the referee to stop something, and the referee does stop play in normal ways, like, okay, we'll still stop. The reality is, unless the referee heard and can verify what was said, the likelihood of an action being taken by the referee, any sort of disciplinary action in that moment, is just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that sucks, because we want to not allow these types of, be it racial, sex, whatever, those types of remarks to be said player to player. We want players to be able to play in a safe and fair environment. That's our goal as referees, right? I can't take action if I didn't hear or see it. And so in this particular instance, the referee is about 20 yards from where the ball went out of play, which is totally normal for the referee. The ball's out of play for a throw-in. He's not in a hurry to get over there. It's on his left side going toward the goal, which means there's no AR on that side to hear it either. And so in this case, unfortunately, it's hard. What the referee can and should do is listen to the player's complaint, right? Especially in a case where it's very clearly like this is, a white player against a player who's clearly not white.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the complaint. Try to understand what was said and the context of the thing. You can call over the other player to say, "Hey, what just happened here? Did you say this?" They're probably going to deny it. But unfortunately, that's all you can do is just document it and then send that to the league officials. And they may be able to investigate better, but even still, like, I don't know how they would. These two players weren't around anyone else either. This isn't the Dante Van Zier situation where like a lot of people heard it, just not
Yeah.
the referees. This was like it sucks because you want to stop this, but as a referee, your power in this situation is limited because you can't, just like, if someone were to punch someone off behind your back,
Yeah.
well, you can't take someone else's word that they punched someone. You know what I'm saying? Um, I think we've had this instance where players with spit, right? Oh,
Mhm.
he spit at me.
Yeah.
If I didn't see, like, even the spit stain on your shirt isn't good enough for me to be like, well, okay, that player did it. Here's a red card. It just is the reality that I can't do it. And unfortunately, this case, so the spitting case or the punching case, you probably can look at VAR in some capacity. VAR doesn't include, unfortunately, pitch side microphones,
Yeah.
and this is just a super unfortunate situation because a player very much feels like he was wronged, and the action we can take as referees in this moment is very limited.
For context of the full situation, it was, and the Burnley came out with a statement after the fact. Burnley Football Club is aware of an alleged comment made to Hannibal Mabry, by Milutin Osmajic during our game against Preston North End, which was reported to officials both during and after the game. During the second half, Hannibal made referee Andrew Kitchen aware of the comment, who has registered the complaint. The club would like to thank the officials for the professional handling of the incident. The club will continue to show its complete support to Hannibal, and there'll be no further comment made until the investigation is completed. So if you want to look for the video, and Hannibal Mabry responded with a thank you to his club, then at the top of his 280 character timeline, pinned it's a statement. I will not be silent about what happened today. I will always call out racism whenever I hear or see it. That is the only way we change as a sport and a society. I am a strong person, but nobody should have to experience this disgusting abuse on the pitch. So,
And that is 100% right. And that's, again, the unfortunate reality for the referees is, as much as I would want to protect that player, there's not a whole lot I can do about it. And I've had a very similar situation happen, where a player alleged a racial comment was made, and I hate that it happened. And I'm fortunate that it's only happened like twice in my entire career, which is, if you go to it's been 15 years of refereeing. But very recently I had this problem after the kind of the concerted effort to get rid of it. And a player alleged someone said it, and I called the player. Did you say that? No, I didn't say that. Okay, I register the complaint. It sucks because it just sucks.
Yeah, you're kind of like, yeah. I mean, there's only so much that you can do. So I wanted to get through all of that stuff, and so reffing down here turned into an hour, my friend.
Well, like I said, I'm not working today, so I got the time for you, John.
No, it's all good. U.S. soccer across the board, a lot of reffing down here. So hit me with the promo. Episode 110 came out yesterday. What else is going on?
So 110 came out yesterday. You can hear Thomas and I give our 50-player rosters. There's a lot of overlap, I will say, but there's some fun names toward the end of those lists. So go give that a listen. It is a fun exercise and kind of opens your mind to what goes into a coach's decision building that provisional roster, because you're not listing your 50 best players. You have to build a roster of sorts, and you're constructing like, okay, well, if I have injuries, how do I? So if we go through all that, it's really fun. So that is dropped yesterday. I was going to do a preview of She Believes Cup, but my friend Ebony, who normally does USWNT stuff with me, got bronchitis, and she is recovering, and she will not be able to talk for a bit. So we are going to be doing a recap / roster evaluation episode after She Believes Cup, which I think in this case will be better. Ebony and I were talking, and while there's a lot of gnashing of teeth over players called in or not called in, we both understand that Emma has a plan. At least we're trusting she has a plan. And this is part of her plan. Winning She Believes Cup in 2025, of the priorities, not high compared to finding new players. And so we'll do that. What we will be talking about this week is I'm going to bring in my friend Lawrence Dockery from the Memphis 901 or the 901 Soccer podcast, I should say. And he and I are going to talk about USL and all their stuff going on right now. He is obviously a scorned Memphis fan who USL has
Yes.
taken his club away from, but he and I were talking that possibly maybe Memphis might be back in the USL discussion if this Division I thing goes through. But we're going to talk about not the lies they're telling. That's not what we're talking about, but the embellishments they're probably giving us, and specifically talking about ProRel and how dangling the carrot to make people, or dangling the toy to make the baby look at the camera, may not be actually what's happening, but also discussing the legitimate roadblocks that they'll have to get to Division I status, and also looking at what ProRel, if it does happen, how that works with the PLS. PLS that US Soccer has going forward. So I would highly suggest you listen to that when it drops, hopefully Friday, maybe Sunday. We'll see how much editing I can get done.
There you go. As always, my friend, great to see you on Monday. You got a busy time. She Believes picking up, business is picking up, and we got
coming up. Yeah.
There's something on Saturday that folks are going to be paying attention to here.
Y'all, can I give a PSA?
Sure.
Okay. It's a positive one, I promise.
Okay.
Atlanta United is about to start their season, and we all love to complain, and we can complain about the team and all that kind of stuff, but now is a great time for you to help make the club, the fandom, and everything around it be the club and the fandom that we want it to be. This new season is starting. If you want to be involved in some way, reach out, find ways to get involved. If it's painting a tifo, if it's volunteering at a tailgate, if it's just as simple as getting folks that aren't necessarily soccer fans hyped about the team. It's a new season. It's a new time to start getting people back into Atlanta United. It's a new time for you to recommit yourself to making the soccer thing that we have the best it can be. So a good opportunity for you all to do that. And it probably starts on Wednesday night with a show that y'all are doing to preview the season, or Thursday night.
Thursday at Moxie Midtown. Yeah. Moxie Midtown is our first third Thursday event at Moxie Midtown. That's at 7:00.
Say that 3 times fast, John.
I know. Then Beetlejuice shows up. As always,
high price. Thanks, Ricky.
Yes. So as always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for the PSA, and we'll be catching up with you on the flip side of everything that's going on with She Believes 2 matches down. And we'll talk about that and everything else going on. Thanks as always, my friend. Great to see you. Yes, sir. So there goes Bart. Oh, and he twisted. It's like he flipped and he left. That's wild. Yes. Price says hello. There you go. All right. So I know that a lot of you in the Twitch pitch got fired up this morning about current relationships between countries. That's cool about, wanting to get into that kind of a discussion. And I know that that the airborne DJ, Tom Russo, kind of had enough of the discussion. But anyway, that's what the Twitch pitch is for. You guys can talk about things and all of that. And trust me, I'm sure we'll get back to 99.9% soccer tomorrow. Once again, Will Pelagic, play-by-play voice of Charlotte, will be joining us at 9:15. And we'll go over that. We'll start to get into our MLS previews. And like I said, we put out the bat signal for a couple of other folks to come and join us this week, and we'll see what timelines are in that kind of stuff. All right, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it before we get out of here. And tomorrow, probably more looking into what happened in the Premier League over the weekend, getting you ready for CONCACAF, all that kind of stuff in completely and totally frozen weather. I'm wondering how many, if we're going to see the orange ball in any one of those 2 games. So that'll be fun to watch. Newcastle willing to let Alexander Isak go. Sorry, Alex. For €100 million this summer, if they fail to qualify for Champions League. Barcelona, how would Barcelona pay for it? Liverpool, Arsenal, and Chelsea among those keen on the 25-year-old Swedish striker. Atletico Madrid interested in Leicester's Wilfred Ndidi. Liverpool bracing themselves for the potential departure of Virgil van Dijk, and have added Bournemouth's 19-year-old Dean Hewson to their short list of replacements. Everton will make a move for Burnley center back Maxime Esteve If Jared Branthwaite leaves this summer, 3-letter paper, take the information at your own peril. Chelsea have been closely monitoring Middlesbrough's 16-year-old twins Anton and Bailey Palmer. Spurs, Villa, Brighton also interested. Everton set to revive their interest in Lyon's Ryan Cherki after considering a move for him in January. Premier League clubs are scouting Shamrock Rovers' 16-year-old striker Michael Noonan, who became the second youngest goal scorer in UEFA club competition history when he scored against Molde in the Conference League on Thursday. Real Madrid considering trying to quit Spanish football for another league in protest at the leadership of La Liga president Javier Tebas and what they perceive as biased refereeing decisions. So what we heard and what we went through in reffing down here now has taken this extra step with our friends at Sport, where Real Madrid's thinking of jumping ship. It's like, yeah, we'll go play someplace else. And so Sport, and this is translated, by the way, and they are, this Sport, I believe, is, I forget which paper is Barca and which paper is Real, but here's the headline, Google translated, by the way. Madrid would consider asking for asylum in another league. For asylum. Alejandro Alcazar at Sport. And this is, once again, this is Sport. So Real Madrid are fed up with the persecution by the referees and the Professional Football League with Javier Tebas as their main enemy. For this reason, the Madrid fans are pushing him on social networks to consider once again studying the possibility of playing in another league and leaving the Spanish one as he did 2 years ago, although he later denied it through a note. He only intends to disrupt the day-to-day of our club once again. And with FIFA and UEFA, it's more complicated, although not impossible in the short term. The club could request asylum in the Bundesliga, Serie A, or Ligue 1 as the main destinations. Their presence would raise the sporting level, but above all, would give them a boost in image that would allow the competition to make room for them to increase their economic income. At Madrid, they believe that Tebas is taking advantage of his brand, his image, and the investments that his presence in the competition attracts. Once again, this is Google translated from Sport in Spain. Made them clear after the letter of protest against the refereeing they were suffering. He leads the crusade against Real Madrid, feeling threatened by this Super League project. The club is exasperated with what's happening. It feels like a victim of a system that punishes it above all others with a refereeing system that is under suspicion, considering it to be a continuation of the previous one on the Negreira case. Added to this, its position of the LFP, united against them. They know that the mission of changing the competition is utopian, but they will not stop studying the possibility of also moving forward with the Super League that will distance them from Tebas and from the web that has been woven against their interests. I didn't get a harumph out of you. So that's Sport. Real Madrid could ask for asylum in another league. Okay. Let's see if that goes down. Barca can't pay their bills. Real Madrid might want asylum in another league. Welcome to La Liga. Schedule. BN and BN Espanol simulcasting Turkish Super League at noon. Rizespor and Galatasaray. You can watch that. You can watch what's going on in Africa, all the BNs, all their programming. Nuestra Tele, CDO, For the Fans, Teise, Gold TV, and our buddy Nino Torres, Liga 1 Max Pro, Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana, all the things, South American League, Central America, all of it. One place. Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps them out, helps us out, helps you out to be a true degenerate. So Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And yes, the tabloids are amazing, Ricky. So yeah, Sport tied to Real Madrid, and you get the Alcazar article. They're tired of it all, and they might request asylum. Go to the extreme and work your way back toward the middle. With your request, go all the way to the end, and then that's when the negotiation starts to get you to draw you back. ESPN Deportes has Barcelona Rayo Vallecano at 3. Fox Deportes tonight has the Honduran Liga Nacional Genesis and Marathon at 8. ESPN Plus has the Barca match and La Liga 2. Almeria and Elche at 2:30. Golazo Network Serie A at 2:45. Genoa Venezia. Paramount Plus has AFC Champions League. 2 matches have started 9 minutes ago. One starts at 1 o'clock. It is Al Shorta and Al Ain and Persepolis and Al Nasser. Al Aqli and Al Harafa start at 1. Leeds United and Sunderland is Monday Night Football at 3. And Serie A Genoa and Venezia is at 2:45. So that's what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, all the things. And like I said, I know that you guys got into a spirited discussion this morning on the Twitch pitch about what was going on in foreign nations and politics and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that's what it's for. The conversation's for, but I know that we'll draw it back to soccer tomorrow. I guess we won't talk foreign nations ever again because of what happened this morning. But tomorrow morning, once again, Willie P at 9:15. Probably start getting into your MLS previews. I want your one prediction during the week at some point, any point you can think about it. Can be tied to a person, tied to a team, tied to a trend, anything like that. I want your predictions all week long. Put them in the Twitch pitch as we go, and we can break everything down in Major League Soccer, go through all the transactions, who's in, who's out, who's doing what you think, all that kind of stuff. So that's what you're staring at, and it will be a busy week. It'll be a fun week, and we'll break it all down for you here at SDH. So since it is north of 11 o'clock, you know what that means. We'll be back in less than 22. And since it's the end of the show, mucha platiel, play it safe. It means I get to do this. We'll see you.